Hello, I'm Karen Wong. I'd like to call the State 911 Advisory Board meeting to order. And I will start with a roll call. Reggie Chappelle.
Here.
Chris Henshaw.
Here.
Lisa Hoffman.
Here.
Leslie Wilson.
Here.
Ed Bonner.
Don Hutchinson here for Ed Bonner.
Chip Yarborough. Absent. Robert Nicolini.
Amy Crutcher here for Robert Nicolini.
Sam Spiegel. Absent. Peter Bryan. Absent. And Mark Pazin. Absent. And I'd like to thank Chris Henshaw for coordinating this room for us, so thank you very much, Chris. Very nice room. And to move on to the approval of the June 2nd meeting minutes. Does anybody, hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any changes?
In the, Chris Henshaw, in the section on the Committee on Outage Notification and Escalation, I have not been in direct communication with the California Emergency Management Agency. That's been going through the office. So those should be changed to say that the State 911 office has not met with CalEMA and the 911 office is waiting for their response.
Any other comments or changes? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes with the changes that Chris had just reported to change under the Committee on Outage Notification and Escalation that the State 911 office has not met with the California Emergency Management Agency?
I'll move that we accept the minutes with the addition.
Lisa Hoffman, I'll second.
Okay, all agree?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to unfinished business, and this is the Long Range Planning Committee. And I'd like to report out on this that we have released our strategic plan for the 911. It was released for the 911 strategic plan. It was released July 30th, 2010, and I hope that everybody's had a chance to read the plan. And I do want to thank the work from the Long Range Planning Committee. The strategic plan was very time-consuming, and I'm just really pleased that it was released, so I want to thank the Planning Committee for that. The strategic plan is a living document, and we will be updating everyone on where we're at with the strategic plan at all of our advisory board meetings. And even though it's only been released for a little over 2 months, I wanted to kind of give an overview of where we're at right now. Christy Quinlan will be reporting out later on the agenda under new business for the next generation 911 portion, which is the major portion of the strategic plan. But I do want to go over the more administrative goals and objectives that were in the plan. So I'd like to start with Goal 1. And Goal 1 was to empower the OCIO PSCD 911 office to lead California into the next generation 911 services. And we are looking at the organization structure of the 911 office, and we are putting together a new organization that will support 911. So we will have a separate section that will be support of next generation 911 specifically. At the next meeting, we will have the new organization approved, and we will be sharing that with everyone. In addition, the 911 staff are committed to getting their emergency number professional certification. Currently, Andy Nielsen and Donna Pena have received their certification, and the office has 7 additional staff engaged in the training and will be taking the test within the next year. Goal 4, modernization of the funding mechanism to align with the next generation solution. We are beginning very preliminary research on the funding model to support the hosted solutions and the next generation 911 model. We've already identified some issues that we need to look at on the funding mechanism through the E911 grant project. This is very preliminary, but I do want to ask the board that either set up a working group now, or if I can have a volunteer of 1 or 2 of the board members that we can start working with. It's very preliminary now. There's really nothing to review, but we do want to be able to talk some of the concepts and the issues, excuse me, that we're identifying now, and before we get too far down the path.
Hoffman, I'll volunteer.
Well, we have the consolidated and shared committee that was working on that, and we submitted this sheet at the March meeting, and we had submitted it to the board. The board accepted it for work on the strategic plan, and we said that if there was assistance needed with the funding, that you
Okay.
could come back to that.
Well, and that committee works on several different issues, correct?
Well, no, it was the key elements of the consolidation and shared hosting, and the next phase of our working group was to identify the funding mechanism or update the funding mechanism that's in place today.
Okay, so if we want to leave that intact, then I'm good with that and just move on. Okay, we will start sharing what we found because we are finding some issues now, and I truly want to make sure the board is completely involved with this as we move
Well,
forward.
and that was the direction at the March meeting and in the minutes, that the state office would come back to that committee
Okay,
if you needed further assistance.
okay, thank you. And since it was identified in the strategic plan, it does have a lot of emphasis.
Okay.
Thank you. Goal number 6, empower the county coordinators in the new paradigm. And the county coordinators are a key stakeholder to the 911 office, especially as we move toward the next generation 911. And I'm very pleased to inform everybody that the county coordinators will be part of our advisory board meeting agenda from here on out, and they will be reporting out for the first time today under new business. Goal 7, empower the 911 advisory board to provide leadership in the new paradigm. And of course, the advisory board is critical as we move forward. And we have been trying to improve our communications as the 911 office with the board members through the newsletters, our work groups, and better sharing of information. And what I want to ask the board today is, do you want to set up a work group so you can let me and the 911 office know how we can achieve this goal?
Lisa Hoffman, you're looking for a work group to work on communication?
No, to work on how to better empower and to give the advisory board more of a leadership role as we move down the next generation 911. I've heard feedback that people want to be involved, and we have separate work groups. This is really a work group just to identify more of the roles and responsibilities that the advisory board can help us with. It's kind of lined out in the strategic plan. If we want to wait till the next meeting to act on this, I'm good with that too. Am I confusing people?
Well, what I'm mulling over is it something that's a working group, would the working group be the best environment for it, or is it something that the group would discuss as a whole during the meetings? If we go the working group route, I'm happy to volunteer to work on that or to coordinate that.
We can do this in the meetings if that's what the board would like. Some of our objectives is to provide the board with ongoing and current information relative to the policy and program changes of the transitioning into the next gen 911 environment. We meet quarterly. I don't know that quarterly will be enough for this. Involve the board in collaborative policy development. Again, since we do meet quarterly, this was some of my concerns that I thought maybe a work group would be able to help us.
So you're really looking for a group to actually come up with a way to implement that particular goal in the strategic plan?
Correct, correct. And I just am concerned with only quarterly meetings that we will get quite a ways down the path on next generation 911, and I want to make sure that we have the board's involvement.
Reggie Chappelle, I'm volunteering to work on that.
Okay.
Sorry, Leslie.
Lisa Hoffman, sorry, close enough. I volunteer to assist you on that.
I would volunteer as well, Leslie.
Okay. So do we have a motion to go forward with a work group?
Reggie Chappelle, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then I have a brief update on Goal 8, which is ensure that the public is informed of next generation changes and proper use of the 911. And this is just really preliminary information, but what we're finding on our routing on empirical data project, that we're able to get information on the types of calls that are going to the PSAPs. And so we'll be putting together some metrics on that information, and we'll be looking at statewide training, county training, or specific PSAP training based on the calls that we're getting and the empirical data that we are gathering. So we should have something to report out either the next, I'm looking at Andy, either the next meeting or in 6 months at the following meeting on what we're finding with the data. So that's where we're at right now with the strategic plan. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, we will move forward now to the reports, and we'll start with the 911 office report update. Andy Nielsen.
Good morning. We'll start out with the outage report, and that is actually handout number 2 in your little packets there. And we've had 21 outages since June, since the last board meeting. 8 were related to cable or facility issues. 5 were related to commercial power. 4 were CPE issues, 911 equipment issues. 4 were problems with the central office or within the central office. And there have been 37 outages so far this year. I'm not sure what that compares to in past years, but I'll do that and provide that in the next meeting. But you do have the report in front of you. If you have any questions on that, be happy to answer any of those.
Henshaw, Andy, on the CPE outages, have we done any analysis on those to determine when those CPEs were updated last? Were they equipment that was old and needed to be updated, or is this newer equipment that had undocumented features, or?
No, some of them most of the CPE problems were power related. They either failed, and in one instance, there was a failure of commercial power that was isolated to a back room. They didn't really know about it and went into UPS, and the UPS failed over time. So that was kind of unavoidable there. So they did replace all the UPSs in there. But we haven't done any analysis on whether the equipment needed to be upgraded or not. From the indications we got, these were, I don't want to say standard failures, but they were not failures out of the ordinary, let's say that.
Okay, the only reason I was asking that is that maybe this is, if we start seeing more of this type of stuff, if we do some analysis on that, maybe it's an opportunity to look at whether or not the 5-year cycle needs to be changed.
That's a good point. We'll take that into consideration. Okay. Any other questions on the outage report? No? Okay. ECATS. ECATS is our emergency call tracking system, and it is replacing Furnace and CarsNet. We have accepted 280 PSAPs to date, with 72 more waiting to be accepted by our office. The remaining PSAPs, about 112 of them, will be converted and turned up by the end of next month, October 31st. We're still on target for that. We're working with Verizon to provide an online training tool document for ECATS for the users. We hope to have that available by the end of this month. The training is conducted on a weekly basis using webinars as the PSAPs are turned up and the logins are given to the PSAPs. In our last board meeting, there was a question about or in regard to the delay of data transfer to ECATS. I think that was one of the questions you had, Leslie. And we did check that out. The data is being converted to ECATS, but the emphasis has really been on turning up those the PSAPs to ECATS. Once that's completed at the end of October, we estimate it's going to take about 3 to 6 months for all that historical data to be loaded into ECATS from both Furnace and CarsNet.
Thank you for that report. And so that means that there will be months more down the road that before we can really start using the program because we have to wait
What-
for that transfer of data?
You can use that yeah, it's the historical data from Furnace and CarsNet that will have to be loaded into ECATS. But, you know, once your PSAP has been turned up, you'll be collecting that data. So there will be a period of time, depending on where you're at in the turn up, you will have some information available. You just may not be able to go back 3 years like you are today.
And I guess that's, my only concern is that the system is working. It's just a matter of getting the
Right.
historical data in there.
That's
Because there
correct.
was some issues that I was hearing from PSAPs not being able, or it wasn't working properly. And is that the case, or is there other issues with the?
No, that would be the only thing, is that data's not converted yet, and it will take a little time to do that. We're not turning CarsNet or Furnace off completely for you. It just won't be collecting data until we get all that information logged in.
Okay, thank you.
Converted.
Andy, I have a, Lisa Hoffman. The question that I posed at the last meeting was, when the ECATS went offline or for some reason the data wasn't being stored locally, it wasn't coming, when it came back up, just like with the Furnace or CarsNet, when it comes back up, it reloads the information so you have the most contemporary information. ECATS was not loading that information, and that's what I had gotten the report back on. The question that I had is, how long is it going to take to get that information when it's gone down for some reason? Usually it's premise equipment that goes down, or there's some problem on the premise, and then it's not loading right away, and that was the question that I asked.
And it depends on the type of failure that occurs there. If it's a failure where the controller's not downloading to ECATS and it's held there, that is probably going to be lumped into one time. We can't do anything about that. But if it's a failure between the remote box where ECATS is collected and the host site, that should be parsed out to the correct time because it's just buffered there. It's time-stamped when it comes in, and that information is released once that link is reestablished. All of that information goes back into ECATS, and it's parsed based on the time and date. So.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was concerned about, because when we go to court, that's the first thing to look at is the times. So
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that information is housed somewhere, that timestamp is occurring somewhere, and that we're able to retrieve that.
Right.
Okay, so
Yes.
that issue's not really an issue then?
Right, unless the problem is the controller itself that's holding it up, then when it releases that, it timestamps, as it releases that data, and we don't have any control of that.
But does the other source that you were talking about have that data, the ability to capture that data, or is it just?
Yes, it'll capture all that data.
So we can go through another source to get it if we need it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Any other questions about ECATS? No? Okay. Routing on empirical data, or the RED project. RED 3 has just completed. It completed July 1st, and it covered Southern California with the exception of Los Angeles. The wireless service providers are in the process of cutting over the sectors based on PSAP and CHP recommendations for RED 3. The contract closure report will be available October 12th, and I will forward that to the advisory board members so you have a copy of that and you can review it once we get that. RED 4 is in progress for Northern California, and it's just finishing up the shapefile and CHP line beats, and it is scheduled to complete by June of next year, 2011. Contracts were just awarded for RED 5, which is Central Valley, and RED 6, which is Los Angeles, and then that'll complete California for RED. And that'll be completed sometime next year, late next year. I also provided a handout 3 that we got from Jim Thompson, and it's a graph that shows the 911 wireless call totals from September 29 to August 2010. And this is very significant for our office because for the first time in California, local PSAPs are taking more calls than CHPs. So this is real good news for us, and it's helping not only the local PSAPs and the citizens, CHP, it's a great success story as far as we're concerned. And as you can see, this started trending in January of this year. And we've reduced the wireless busies from 44% in 2007 down to 5% in 2010. So that's significant success, and obviously we couldn't have been as successful without the help of CHP and the local PSAP. So we really appreciate it. We think it's a very, very good success story for California, and actually all the PSAPs and CHP too. So, any questions on red?
Excuse me, Reggie Chappelle. At the risk of sounding overly sensitive, the yellow, the abandons, do you track or have data for all PSAPs or just CHP?
We have them for all PSAPs. I can get you that information, Chief Chappelle, if you need that. But yeah, we do track it for all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Andy, sorry, but back on ECATs.
Yeah.
The total numbers on ECATs and Furnace still aren't matching up. So what are the criteria that are, on what is the criteria for accepting calls into ECATs? Is it the same as it was for Furnace? Are you just doing based on accuracy, or is it total number of calls?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Chris. The ECATs is not capturing the same number of calls as Furnace did? Is that
Right.
what it is?
That's what appears, yeah. The numbers are different when you look at, months combined.
There shouldn't be any change there. Why don't you send me an email with that information and we'll research it, but they should be the same. It's the information's pulled from the same source. So
I've
they
heard that
should
from
be
a
the
couple of
same.
different people, so.
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
see if we can pull some numbers and send them.
Yeah, just send me where it's at. We'll take a look at it and see, but they should be the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The Enhanced 911 Grant Project. This is a project to implement a next-generation IP-enabled network for California. This was a grant that the state of California received, a $4.3 million grant in matching funds from the federal government. And we're moving very quickly to provide a proof of concept test for the Emergency Services Internet Network, the EZINet, before the end of this year. Most of the services are already on either this existing CPE contract or CalNet 2. The remaining services required for our next-gen enabled IP network are being added to the CalNet contract now. This should be completed by the middle of next month, the middle of October. We're hoping to get it done by the end of this month, and we're very, very close to getting that on CalNet, so we'll have those services available. And the services include an IP type of selective routing, geospatial routing and database services, and network monitoring and performance services through Verizon. And again, we're very, very close to getting that completed. We're working on a hosted solution for Butte County, and I think Christy's going to talk a little bit more about that in her presentation. But we expect the first PSAP to be turned up the 1st of October, the first week in October, and we'll be able to process IP calls across that network for the first time in California. We're in the process of building out the rest of that network to support Northern California, and we've targeted late November to have that IP network in place where we can support 5 PSAPs, including 1 CHP location, and we'll be able to do a proof of concept test for that network for CHP and 4 of the other local PSAPs in the area. And our target for that is December 17th of this year. Are there any questions on that? No?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Andy,
Sure.
Reggie Chappelle. The IP network, is that vendor hosted, or is it hosted at DTS? Do you know?
We're actually purchasing services through Verizon for the IP network and those services. There is a group of PSAPs in Butte County that are, it's a different phase of the same project that is using a hosted solution where they're using CPE equipment to do a host remote type of solution for Butte County. That's it. Did that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? No? AB 912. AB 912 allows primary PSAPs a one-time payment for the cost to recruit and train additional personnel necessary to accept wireless enhanced 911 calls. And our office has been working with a work group from the advisory board Leslie and Chris and Sam Spiegel, thank you so much for helping us with this. They helped develop the criteria and the applications for processing PSAPs for their applications when they apply for AB 912. The applications were due August 1st of this year, and notification of award will go out October 15th. We've received 34 applications, and we're currently reviewing all of the applications with the advisory board. And again, we're on target to have those award letters out by the 15th of October, but the funds will not be available until we have a budget. So we can at least notify if we don't have a budget by that time, but we can't release any funds until we have that budget signed and approved.
And I think it's important to note, Annie, that we had a wide range of applications submitted and different criteria, and the committee was able to provide advice on what we thought the core criteria for training and recruitment would be, advertising. But there was a wide variety of those applications and different requests submitted, so I think that's important. And it is going to be a very difficult job for the state to hone down some of those requests.
But we do appreciate the support you gave us, because, you know, that's kind of the operational aspect is something we don't have a lot of expertise in, so your input was very, very appreciated. So thank you. Okay. Any other questions on AB 912? No? The technical work group. This was a work group that was put together in April of this year, and the work group is made up of representatives from the County Coordinator Task Force, the Advisory Board, NENA, and the State 911 Office. The work group was formed to evaluate new technologies entering California, determine the impacts to 911 both from a network and operational perspective, and to ensure that there's documentation to support these new technologies as they come in. Now, we have completed work on the AT&T 3G microcell product, and we're presently working with M-Finders to develop an agreed-upon procedure and process that'll be satisfactory to both the work group and M-Finders. I was waiting for some feedback from a couple of work group members that I just got, so we'll be scheduling our next conference call within the next couple of days, and we'll be working on that again. Are there any questions about the work group? No? Okay. Just a couple other things I just wanted to give you a heads up on. Our CPE contract expires in September of next year, and we're in the process of going through and developing a new contract. We issued an RFI for information that we sent out to the vendors, and this specifically asked questions about next generation technologies and how they plan. What are their ideas about next generation technologies? What do we need to keep in mind? And we're going to evaluate all those responses. The responses are due the end of this month, September 29th. We'll take that information and use that as part of our contract for our CPE vendors. The contract, we expect it out in the June time frame of next year, so we'll probably have an RFP issued probably first quarter of next year, where we'll actually get the vendors to respond, and then we'll do our selections and those types of things and have a contract in place, a new contract, by June of next year. Any questions on that? Okay. And then finally, the newsletter. We've been sending out a newsletter to the advisory board just to try to keep all of you and really all of 911 in the loop on the projects that we have at the state. And if you have any upgrades that you'd like to give to us, any suggestions, I can take them here, or you can always send me what your suggestions might be for the newsletter. If there's a particular item that you want us to cover, let us know. We'd be happy to do that. So if there are any comments or questions about the newsletter, I can take those now, or forever hold your peace. No. Nope.
I'd like to thank the office for the newsletter. It's actually, there's a lot of good information in there.
Well, good.
It's coming out in a timely manner, which is nice.
Well, good. That's the whole intent. Any other questions for me on anything? Okay, thank you very much.
Committee on the outage notification and escalation.
Henshaw, we'll save 10 minutes here. Nothing.
Committee on PSAP consolidation and hosted solutions.
Well, I think we've already covered that, so we could move on to the GIS, and we are still waiting for a replacement for our head GIS person at the state office to lead that committee.
Okay. Yeah, it's difficult. We're down for a 10-minute break, but since we're moving through the agenda, I'd like to just go right into new business. The County Coordinator Task Force.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here representing the California County Coordinator Task Force. We know most of you, but we thought we'd introduce ourselves because we don't all get together very often, but we happened to have a meeting yesterday. We're comprised of 6 members representing the 58 statewide county coordinators, and we try to keep our membership very diverse in large, small, urban, rural, police, fire, so that we get a good cross-section and represent California as best we can. And each of the member brings their own experience. So I'd like to have them come up at this time and introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brian Acosta. I'm a PSAP manager for Confire JPA, and I represent San Bernardino County.
Hanan Harb, I am a comm center manager and 911 coordinator for San Diego County.
Lori Souter, operations manager at Shascom, a consolidated PSAP in Shasta County.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sherilyn Rockwell. I'm a telecommunications specialist senior for Butte County and the 911 county coordinator.
Good morning. My name is Shelby Ryman Geezer, and I'm the County 911 coordinator for Tulare County.
And just married last week. Oh, I'm Ella Sotelo. I represent Los Angeles County, and I'm one of the few county coordinators in the state that are contracted. Most of these folks, I think all of them, are county employees, which is the normal process for a county coordinator. It's usually a county employee doing the work, but I happen to be the exception where I'm a contracted employee. The little background, we were established in 2005, and we got together as a group to kind of address some concerns and confusion around state reimbursement for county coordinator duties. And the result of that getting together in 2005 was a 2006 report that was shared with the county coordinators, I think at a CalNENA conference. And it was also shared, of course, with the state 911 office. During that process, it was quickly determined that we needed representation in many environments. So we decided to, with the support of the state, to stay together as a group and continue to represent the county coordinators, because we think the county coordinators are very unique in their interfacing with their own PSAPs. Of course, every county is so unique. And that's really what we bring to the table, is that uniqueness to make sure everybody's represented. And let's see, we also created, one of the things that we have recently been working on is a county coordinator resource manual. And that was developed in 2007 and shared with the county coordinators at the 2008 CalNENA conference. We do have annual forums. We used to just have one a year following the annual conference. The state office has recently approved us having 2. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Karen. And so we'll have a second one next month in coordination with the CalNENA Quarterly in Sacramento. So we're now going to have 2 meetings a year, an opportunity for the county coordinators to get together and discuss things that they're facing, whether it's how to coordinate testing with vendors, whether it's how to report missed routes. So there's a lot of issues that are just common to county coordinators. So we have these closed meetings that we can really get down and work out some issues and some solutions for our problems. And we have this resource manual, like I said, that will be posted on a website that Brian Acosta developed for us. It's a fabulous website. We're going to roll it out at our forum next month. And that will be another resource for county coordinators. So they'll have the manual, which will be posted there, and a lot of information that just pertains to county coordinators. Again, another resource so we can provide as much information as we can to our fellow coordinators. Some of the things we do are, we have, like I mentioned, the forums. We, let's see what else we do. We get involved with the testing of the new products as they're rolling into California. And sometimes our opinions are valued, sometimes they're not, but we always give them. And we chair monthly county coordinator conference calls. Again, an opportunity for the county coordinators to get together and discuss issues they may be having, or some successes that they want to share, and other ones, you know, can use that as well. We've started participating recently in legislative issues because we feel that they pertain to our PSAPs, and we want to make sure that our PSAPs' voices are heard as well. And we also work with the new county coordinators as they come in, as well as existing ones, and as a resource and train. Because, you know, sometimes you think you're doing things right, but right doesn't always mean quick. So, or quick doesn't always mean right, however you look at it. But we act as a resource to the other county coordinators in the state. Okay, are there any questions? You are an easy group. I knew, Chris, you'd have a question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now for the next generation roadmap.
Good morning, everybody. For the record or the video, my name is Christy Quinlan, and I'm the Chief Deputy Director at the OCIO. And want to thank you for an opportunity to come back. I'm glad that we got volunteers for a work group for Next Gen 911 because I'm going to be alluding to some opportunities to participate in that area. So we've got our strategic plan for 911 up and published on the website. If you haven't taken a look at it, I'm actually facing the board, but in many cases, I'll be talking to the audience behind me. So if you haven't taken a look at it, I encourage everybody to look at that strategic plan. It had been many years since we had a strategic plan. We were really wanting to get something published, and in an effort to get that plan on board, we got really a high-level strategic plan, which is appropriate for a strategic plan, but it really didn't get to the tactical level for Next Gen 911. So we had that placeholder in the strategic plan. So our next step will be to really get to what I call action steps for Next Gen. But in terms of the focus, we want to have the strat plan talked about a clear direction, continuity of purpose for 911. That becomes really apparent. Everybody's probably aware, maybe they're sick of hearing, but it's 6 weeks to the election. So we're in transition. There's going to be a change of administration. If you're an exempt, which means a political appointee like me, that could mean many things. But we want to get something really, in a sense, codified so that we have a clear direction for Next Gen 911. So where will California go? That's what we want to have set up and it's built as much as we can. We want to modernize the funding mechanism to align with our Next Gen solution. And we want to ensure that the public is informed and educated on the next generation changes and the proper use of 911. So I don't have to tell the board it's not for calling and saying my French fries are cold. One of the things that we frequently do when we start a research project is, from the state level, we say, what are other states doing? What's happening out there in the other states? So we started there. It's always nice to go to school. Frequently we will say California's big, California's different, California's complex. It may not, you can't pick it up and move it to California, but we can at least figure out what they've done, go to school on their mistakes, or maybe even their successes. So we did some research. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Rochelle Chong. She's our special counsel at the OCIO. Most recently came to us from the CPUC. So we have some opportunity to get her background from the Public Utilities Commission. So Rochelle got some interns from some very prestigious colleges and assigned them some states. So I'm going to talk about the states that we were able to actually get significant data from. First state was Florida. Florida does have a statewide emergency services internet backbone, and it's available for all the counties to use. So they basically kind of went central. They have 4 regional IP routing projects funded by E911 board grant. But not all the PSAPs are upgraded to the IP-based system, and they have a future plan to get them upgraded to the remaining PSAPs. Indiana, in talking with folks, Indiana was kind of held out as the gold standard. This would be, they've kind of started doing it. They were selected to participate by the Department of Transportation as a proof of concept for NextGen as a project. They've got full IP transport now for the wireless calls, and it includes ANI, OLI, and voice. The transport architecture is resilient packet routing over SONET. They've got 40 counties that are leasing the local exchange carrier for the LEC-owned equipment. But, there's always a but. The LEC has denied direct connection to the leased equipment. They've filed a complaint with the Regulatory Commission, and a final order is pending from the Indiana Commission. Also, Indiana is looking to cut down on the number of PSAPs to 1 per county for cost effectiveness. So this is probably something that we are looking, given the cuts to the local, given our budget situation. Massachusetts, they're in their early stages. They've hired RCC consultants to review their legacy 911 network, and the report is due out in October. They plan to use commercial networks, so AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, some local carrier, to provide the statewide IP system until the state government can take over. RCC was one of the names that we saw over and over as a consultant that seemed to be familiar, that had a good handle on what was possible. Michigan, the other consultant that seemed to have a good handle was Kimball. Kimball did the report for Michigan. So they did a feasibility study of NextGen 911 in April for Michigan, and they found that basically Michigan's infrastructure, their equipment, could not support NextGen 911 for Michigan. They've got IP available throughout the state, but they've not constructed a statewide IP network. Currently, their PSAPs are not collectively run by the state, which is a disadvantage for Michigan when they try to roll out a statewide solution. I can tell you from personal knowledge that Michigan has a consolidated or central IT, but the PSAPs are not managed by IT. My boss, Terry Takai, used to be the state CIO in Michigan, and PSAPs were not one of the things that were under her mandate. Tennessee. They're in the planning stages of a project to transport the 911 calls to 149 call centers. They're currently reviewing whether they can leverage an RFP for a statewide IP network built for their NCIC, for their eHealth project, and Tennessee Public Libraries. The emergency calls communication boards are networking with Kimball and Associates on this project. So again, this is the Kimball. Kimball and RCC were the two probably most preferred consultants. Texas. Of course, Texas is a very interesting state for a lot of reasons in terms of how they just are organized. Their Commission on State Emergency Communications has developed and issued the CSEC Master Plan, and Texas was awarded $3 million as part of the Enhanced 911 grant by the Department of Transportation for the IP-enabled Next-Gen network. California, we got $4.8 million, so that was consistent with the master plan. Texas hired Kimball and Associates as its consulting firm for the project. So again, you're seeing those two consultants. Texas will have a first office application, RFI, in August to determine the best way to proceed with its Next-Gen 911, followed by an RFP in September of this year. So we have not gone back to see if they've actually completed it, what happened in August. Texas is having some interesting things, for example, with their computer consolidation, but we need to go back and see where they are with their next-gen. Vermont is arguably the most advanced. It's a very small state, 911 process in the country. The RFP was issued in January 2006, awarded in May, and completed the end of December. So just when you look at these timelines, you get a sense of, wouldn't that be lovely if we could do that, something that quick in California? The service is for 8 PSAPs in Vermont. So again, when you look at the numbers, 8 PSAPs. Okay. Washington has developed a 6-year plans for transition to an emergency service internet network. Their 6-year plan will be done in 3 phases. The first phase will test 8 primary PSAPs in accordance with NENA I2 standards. Phase 2 will migrate the remaining 31 counties to the ESI net utilizing NENA I2. And phase 3 will begin centralization of customer-provided equipment around the state at various strategic locations. So those are the 8 states that we looked at. We solicited data from other states. We just didn't get enough to really present a picture of what was happening. But we wanted to try and go to school on what was happening at various states. Some of these will really apply to California. States like Vermont, probably not so much. So what are we doing in California? We want to build on what we have. We want to take advantage of what we have. So we're going to use our hosted solution for the 7 PSAPs in Butte County. This would be the grant money that we use to build out the IP network. So that will be our first host to remote system. It'll be our first PSAPs that will be operational in October. We'll have an IP-enabled backbone or ESI net for Northeastern California, and including the CHP proof of concept. We'll have that up in mid-December. Our timelines. We are in the process of getting a consultant. We are reviewing our bids right now. We want to have that consultant on board around the 1st of October. We want a roadmap and a plan before the end of this administration. I heard a snicker someplace. Okay, I don't think you were alone. Very doable from where I'm standing. Our roadmap deliverables will be evaluation of existing projects that can be leveraged. And I think the key there is existing projects. Evaluation of existing state resources that can be leveraged for the Next-Gen 911. Evaluation of potential partners as a result of the ARA money and the BTOP 2. and a clear direction that's the foundation for this and future administrations of next-gen deployment in California. So it's really taking advantage of current infrastructure and money that we've already spent, so leveraging in any investments. So what do we want from the advisory board, or how can you help us? So whether Karen kind of alluded to this, is it something that the long-range planning committee can help? Is it a new committee? Is it something that we create and you review? Is it a work committee? Is it something that you've got in your areas where you say, we've got the proof of concept, the pilot in Butte, and then people want to raise their hand and say, I've got something in my area, a group, a ring, whatever, that would work well for the next pilot, the next gen. So that's kind of my presentation, but I'm certainly open to questions either about the presentation or where the OCIO is headed with this. But I will tell you our intent is to have the tactical plan, and to me, a tactical plan means plans with actionable steps, things that say do this by this date, get us committed, cemented, something that won't be easily dismantled.
Insha, I would say that the Long Range Planning Committee is a good place to start working on that, and probably about the same time that the vendor is selected for the consultant, and start working on that from the beginning this time.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of opportunities around the state, projects that are in place, projects that are in process that can help us with this.
Yes.
So it's a very opportune time.
Yes.
To be looking at this, because there's a lot of that stuff going on right now.
That's right. So one of the things that will be really important when you, as I say, when you actually say it out loud and you look at it, so there's 6 weeks to the election and maybe 6 weeks, there's really a little bit more, like 7 weeks after the election. We expect the Butte pilot to go mid-December, but if we have things queued up or sequential, so what we're really asking the board for is their participation. So I wanted to kind of lay those timelines out. And obviously, we're talking about your communities, but we want to, in this tactical plan, have actionable steps, things that we will say we want to do these things in these timeframes. So we want to write them down. And again, 6 weeks to the election, I'll say 7 weeks to the end of the year. It comes out to about 3 months. We'll meet again. This group will meet again in about 3 months. We won't come together as a body. So we may be looking at presenting the next gen plan as a group fait accompli. So that's why this work group will become so critical, and the participation of the members on the work group will be so critical. Because what we don't want to do is have us throw it over the wall. And we've all had those conversations. That's not what we want to do. So I'm really soliciting input here. I'm really echoing Karen's request.
For my edification, are you looking for the advisory board to participate in the Butte County project, or to look at long range beyond that?
Beyond it. I mean, the Butte County, Reggie, you're in that. CHP's in that. I think it's the next step, and then the next step. What will be the best places to go next? Given everybody's expertise, what makes the best sense? If we can build on existing infrastructure, if Leslie and I talked, and Leslie talked about a list, and here are the things that make the most sense. That's the kind of stuff that we really want to get. And where can we get the quick wins? What's the low-hanging fruit? Where does it make sense? If we know that, Lisa, if you can take out all of San Francisco in one fell swoop, that might make sense too. So those are the kinds of things that we want input in.
And this will be planned during our time with our consultant between now and December.
Right.
So that's why it's a very short time frame to gather this information.
Right. Now, we may not get every PSAP planned, but we'll have maybe the first wave or the first and second wave planned. So it would be, where do we have existing infrastructure that we can take advantage of? And then we would plan to go where we don't have infrastructure and look at that based on need or criticality. But that's the kind of stuff that we really need to get, the board's advice on. And that's what I'm looking for.
But I would think that the long-range committee could do that with the help of the hosted and consolidated if they wanted to task some of those items to that group. We could work in conjunction with each other.
I think what we're really trying to avoid is for us making decisions that affect other people.
Well, we appreciate that because I think everyone knows their counties and what infrastructure is there, and those are some of the questions that have come up before in talking to Andy and what's available in the different counties.
That's right.
With your office, and we need to look at that carefully before we start trying to, build this monster, and we're patching various things together and not the big plan.
Well, and we'll use our consultants' expertise to tell us what's happened in other states.
Hutchinson. When we're talking about the two different committees, I know the Long Range Planning Committee has been working on the strategic plan, and I would hate for the two committees, also the Hosted Solutions Committee, to be working at odds or to be trying to do two different things, but ultimately end up with the same product at the end. So my suggestion would be that we form a separate committee that actually does this. With those that are very interested in participating in it, rather than have two committees trying to work together. That's just a suggestion.
And I'm fine with that too. I was just trying to make it easier. Those committees are in place and have the long range committee give direction to the other committee if there was items that they wanted that committee to work on.
There might be an easy solution to this. Everybody that's on the Long Range Committee, raise your hand.
I don't remember. Do you know?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, and Peter. And everybody who's on the Consolidated Host Committee, raise your hand. Okay, so, with Peter and Leslie added to the Long Range Committee, we're all there. So the two committees meeting in conjunction at the same time, everybody's involved. The only thing we have to worry about is having a quorum at a committee meeting.
And you will.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, and what's her name?
That one.
We would have a quorum.
Okay, so that's an issue.
It would be an issue, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I am fine with not being on there, and if Chief Bryant needs assistance from me, I can provide that to him.
I think the recommendation that Leslie made is valid. I think that we, on our committee, could take direction from the primary committee rather than having a quorum or worrying about having a quorum. That way, if the Long Range Committee had something that they needed done, that they wanted to farm out, they could do that to us.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Leslie?
Yes.
Do I have a nomination to go forward with the Long Range Planning Committee to work on the Next Gen 911 roadmap?
I'll move that.
I'll second it. Lisa Hoffman.
All agreed?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion passed.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move down to announcements. Are there any announcements today?
Hutchinson, I would just like to add, since the county coordinator task force was here, that I just really appreciate them meeting and showing up to these meetings. It sounded like Karen suggested they were going to give a regular report to this body, and it's very important that we hear from you guys. So I really am looking forward to those reports, and I think getting that information is critical to help this board make the decisions that it needs to make.
A couple of things. One, the Calnina Quarterly on the 21st in Sacramento on the Delta King. I don't know, October 21st? What did I say, September? You just said the 21st. Oh, okay, October 21st. Also, if anybody's interested, today up at the CHP Dispatch Center, the Caltrans Transportation Management Center, 7183 Opportunity, they're having a hamburger barbecue benefiting Shop with a Cop. So if you're interested, you can pop up there and get a hamburger for $5 and help the Shop with a Cop program.
Reggie Chappelle, just like to say, I think for the first time in quite a while, all 25 of our dispatch centers have been meeting the NENA standard for call answering, which, considering the challenges we have, especially here in San Diego, it's been quite an accomplishment, and I think it's attributed to a lot of things. One is, the RED project certainly helps. When the San Bruno fire happened, we checked to see if there was a spike in calls or if we were having any issues with call volume, and our call volume remained pretty much the same. It didn't go up at all because the locals there are taking their own calls. There's one more large agency in the Bay Area that we're hoping to convince to do that so that they'll stop telling people to call a 10-digit number, but we're working on that. But we've also been helped by the poor economy. Our vacancy rate is at 2% right now, which, considering the cost of living in some of the places where we have centers, is amazing in itself. But I think probably the single biggest factor that really helped us get to that point had very little to do with technology, with my staff. I mean, they did do a lot, but a lot of it really had to do with just revisiting staffing and when are the peak times and how do we staff, and making sure that our dispatchers knew how important the issue is to the commissioner. And so we're hoping, we told everybody now that the fight isn't over. Now the real challenge is maintaining that as things fluctuate, as staffing goes up and down, or we have other challenges. So I want to share that with the group.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
Oh yeah, the time for the barbecue up at the Shop with a Cop is 11:30 to 1:30.
Okay, are there any public comments?
I move that we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much for showing up today.